Hello lovely people and welcome to day 248 of this thing I'm doing. Which is playing chess full time for a year. Who knows, I might, given the time I spent not posting videos for you, I might extend this year. Just thinking out loud. We are playing, I am playing against Asepirman and I am 1586 against a 1464. I'm going to play the Italian game. So I think against all four knights, I just push d3. The other option would be to play the knight out to c3. So if I play d3, my opponent has a check. I don't think I am concerned about that check. I could block with the bishop or the knight. Also, if I play d3, could they break in the center? Because I'm not going to be covering. There's no knight here, so I can't cover d5. But I think I can just take. It's defended twice. I think I will play knight c3. So my current rating is 1586. I went from 1656 down to 1586 because I just played lots of 10+0 games whilst I was tilted and tired. And I'm going to try and avoid doing that. Obviously, you always try and avoid doing that, but I'm going to try and avoid doing that. 1586 is my current chess.com rating. My ECF rating is still 1581, and I believe it will go to 1584 at the end of this month, if I don't play another game, which I don't think I will. Okay, back to the game. When I start playing these games whilst filming to you, I often forget the things that I've been doing right at the beginning anyway, but I've just remembered. So we're only in move 4. So I'm going to try and notice my opponent's checks and my checks in every position. So my opponent will make a move, and then I will, at some point before I make my move, my goal is to notice how many checks I have in the position and what they are, even if they're weird, even if they're just like sacrificing. So right now I have this check. So unless they put their knight here, which they're never going to do, but unless they put their knight here, well, I suppose if they put the pawn here as well, I will have a check here on the next move, and that's the only check I have, I think. So even if it's a weird move that doesn't look good, I just want to notice all of those. And then also, before I make my move, I want to say, if I made this move, what check would my opponent have? So they're the two slightly different questions to ask. And the purpose is so that eventually it's automatic. So I'm pretty keen to, I've seen quite a few discussions on the Chess Dojo about checks, captures and threats. The idea that, just have this checklist, and the absolute like standard most popular checklist I think is checks, captures and threats. Every move I should make sure I look in order what checks my opponent has, what threats, and what captures and what threats they have. A lot of people don't think that's a good way to actually play, to do it explicitly. So my opponent has made a move, bishop to c5, and that you should train it. You should train it by doing this in puzzles, check captures and threats in puzzles, but then eventually you shouldn't be trying to do it in games. Different differences of opinion, but the idea is that you should just get to a game and it comes automatically to see all those things because you've just done it so effortfully in your training. Okay, so I think I'm just going to push d3. My opponent has, so I have one check. They didn't play d5. My opponent has one check, and it's a completely symmetrical position. So I'm just going to play d3, I think. Let my bishop out, probably pin the knight, and then go from there. Okay, so h6 avoids the pin on the knight. Okay, I think I'm going to play bishop d2. So in some lines of the Italian, you don't have your knight out, and instead you play c3, and then potentially b4, a4, and just expand on the queen side. Control d4 a little bit better with the pawn. So I don't have that option now. So I was thinking I might want to kick this bishop at some point, but at the moment it can come here. So it might be worth prepping that. And it's a useful move because eventually I could push these pawns as well. I think I will do this. I'll play a3. I think it's a reasonably innocuous looking move, but also what I'm doing is I'm preparing to play b4. That's b5. I'm preparing to play b4, kicking the bishop. So the bishop comes here, say. Okay, so I don't think they've noticed. Ah, they have noticed it. They have noticed it. Or it's just a coincidence. But the idea would be to play b4, kick the bishop, play b5, kick the knight, and then win this pawn because it was, until just now, undefended. I could win the bishop pair at this point then. That looks like a good candidate move. Ah, I forgot to do the checks. The checking the checks. I should do it. I'll start doing it on my tally. This is how I've been playing when not videoing, but I haven't done it now. But why not? Yeah, it seems to help. So this is one candidate move. This is another candidate move. My opponent probably wants to pin my knight because it looks like a good place for the bishop, or just trade off light squared bishops because this is a good piece. I think if they were to come here with the bishop, I'd probably want to just put my knight in the way. Put my knight on a good square, open up the eyes of this bishop a little bit, and also just say hold on to this c4 bishop, which I quite like. It's bearing down onto the king. It's technically my bad bishop because my pawns are fixed on light squares, and so it's not got as much mobility as, not anywhere near as much mobility as this one, which apparently can go from the dark square to the light square. But it is doing a good job, so I don't want to trade it off straight away. And also, if I win the bishop pair, let's say like this, then I would quite like to hold on to the bishop pair. All right, before I do, I'm going to play the knight to a4, I think, and there's a check here. And if I take back, then another check, and let's say I just come back home. This queen can't come in at that point. So I don't think that's a problem. I don't think this, but this is why it's useful to check the checks, because I'm not expecting the check on that pawn, and then actually, oh, but there's a follow-up check, and then there's a potential follow-up check if this knight wasn't here. So it's just useful to do these checklists. I have a check. If I played knight a4, I would have a check, but sorry, I should do mine first. So right now I have this check. If they took, I similarly have a follow-up check, but it's, again, not a good idea. Okay, I'm going to make the move. I didn't spot this, but it can just be taken. It's hard to know when I don't spot a move that I then realize actually isn't good. So I'll just make my tally. Did I not notice it explicitly because I subconsciously knew it was not going to work, or did I just miss it? And it was just lucky that it's not supported by a piece. Okay, so they go straight in for pinning this knight. Interesting, because now I can take and sort of reduce the quality of their center. Although I suppose maybe not reduce the quality. I'm considering this pawn isolated. If I take here, then I consider this pawn isolated because I don't think black will want to push this pawn. Right now they can't push this pawn, so it's effectively temporarily isolated anyway. I am going to take. They haven't changed as soon as I take, they won't even have a check. So yeah, they haven't changed the makeup of the position by putting this knight in a pin. I think I might just castle now. Missing these obvious things, like very silly. I suppose I could at least get the other bishop, even if it does mean ruining my pawn structure. The idea is that if they just come back here, then I can push, and then I can win this pawn. So they think they have to take. But yeah, I'm a bit annoyed with myself because the pin happened and I didn't really respect it. And now I've just lost another pawn. I've just lost a pawn. They could have taken a pawn. That's a miss from them. Okay, so my basic plan is to come here defending this pawn. I can't be checked by the queen. Come here. Put the rook here. Make use of the fact that they've just opened my king side and try and consider it an advantage rather than a ridiculous situation based on terrible, lazy calculating or a lack of calculating. Is there any way that they can pile up on this pawn? I suppose if I come here, then I can defend it. This knight is actually pretty stuck. So I'm thinking I would like to do either this, so I'd either like to play rook to g3 defending this pawn so my queen can come over, or play bishop c3 because I am attacking an undefended pawn. If they defend it with a pawn, then they've just really weakened their king side. My light squared bishop is doing well here. Or if they defend it with a piece, like let's say they defend it with the queen, then I can attack that. Not straight away actually, because this queen will be lost, but eventually I could attack that and break open this diagonal basically. Okay, I want to get this queen into action though before I do that, because there's no point going here and then having to then do this stuff. The reason is because this comes with tempo as well. So I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that they would be so happy to rip open their kingside pawns. So maybe I just come here straight away. If this, I just win this pawn and it's pretty scary for them. And if they just push here, defending it with this bishop, I think I'll just take here. What else do they have? So they could just come up with the queen. I'll do this. I can deal with this in a second. I don't think they can just push, or I think they've got to defend this pawn. They can't use the rook. Okay, they can just attack. That is unexpected. I think I'm just going to start killing the pawns. If they take here, I'd be quite happy, because actually I'd quite like my bishop here now. There's a potential I come here. This is quite scary, but not horrendously scary. They can't actually come here because I just have a checkmate. So the queen has a responsibility. And I think it might be worth me coming here. Ooh, I could consider... I'd really like to push this pawn. The queen and the king are on a diagonal which I can attack. They have no dark squared bishop. I am playing poorly. I've just got to take it, unfortunately. Just losing, completely dead. Well, there we go. This is the least happy I've been at winning a game of chess in a long time. They just left the game. So they waited a few minutes, then left the game. That was a very silly game. I am less annoyed with it now, but I've played so many mistakes that it became a bit farcical looking through it. Stuff to learn from it. So firstly, in this position, I shouldn't play knight c3. I'm just beginning to learn the Italian game, and I wondered if these two knights coming out meant that I shouldn't play the normal move, which is just d3. I've given it a good move icon just because I know it's not like, whoa, that's amazing, how did you think of that? But it's just what I should be playing because it's in the opening. Because I was considering this, but if d5, I can just take that, and if they take with the knight, then I just castle, and this pawn is weak. So if they just like put the bishop out somewhere, I could attack that pawn. And what are they going to do here? Like, are they going to play that? that doesn't seem... f6 doesn't seem right in this position. There's... Yeah, the king side is now peppered with holes. And, well, this isn't a hole, but, you know, it's not good. Weak light squares, so they might just have to give up this pawn. Or just do this. Let's see. Yeah, okay, in the Masters database, there are 32 games in this position, and all of them, every one is just castles. So you just get to win this pawn. Maybe not. Maybe you wouldn't take with the knight back, but there we go. This position. So I should have even just... I didn't need to see that far. I just need to see this, and I would have been happy to play this because it's nice and open. I'm already well developed. My pieces are out, so are theirs, but I'm castled. They're 2 moves away from castling. I'm 1 move away from getting on this nice semi-open file. It's just, yeah, it's very nice for me. So I should have played d3. Next move. Going on with development. I'm not sure about the bishop move, but I'm not going to go into that too much now. I am going to spend time learning the openings. Learning the various e4 openings like the Italian, which I have not spent any time on yet. So I played a3 with the idea of b4. I think that's okay. I think the idea is there. And then once they closed in that bishop, I went in with the knight. Now maybe I shouldn't have... maybe I should have just gone straight in for b4. Gained some space, gained a tempo. Maybe even considered playing... like, no, so it's a bit too far because the knight has a nice home here. So, but maybe just kicking that bishop a little bit. I don't need to win that bishop. I'm just maybe I am too like laser focused on winning the bishop pair, and it comes at a detriment of just like I'm blind to all the actual the complexity of the position because I'm just interested in winning the bishop pair. But I won the bishop pair, and then completely missed. Just that I consider this a blunder because I can't believe I didn't see this. I just wasn't doing what I should be doing and just thinking, what's my opponent going to do next? What's a very obvious next move for my opponent? And attacking a pinned knight, pinned to a queen, when the bishop can't come back to defend, that's a particularly obvious move. So I even made the further mistake, I'm going to call this a mistake as well, because now they can take and take. And I have to do this. And now the queen can come in. Well, maybe just even this and this. Just terrible. Just awful, 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 awful. So just compound, like so many mistakes in this game, a ridiculous number of mistakes. So they didn't take. They should have taken. So that gave me a chance to do this with my king. Knight h7. I said the knight had no forward moves, so black said, yep, fine. I will go, no, not these ones, these ones. So I will go backwards and move the F pawn, which I quite liked. I quite like that move. I didn't appreciate it enough in the game, but I like it now. So I should have probably taken that pawn. I think e takes F, rook takes, and gone from here. Potentially just done what I did in the game, but rather than having this pawn here to be a pest, and I didn't appreciate the power of it because I was thinking, okay, well I can take, and again, like even just taking is probably a bad move. It's hard to say. Like maybe everything I did was a mistake in this game, because with a tempo, like I didn't think of the rook being attacked. Attacked twice. And only now did I realise, okay, well I have to do something with that rook. And I get over here and get greedy, thinking, well I can do this. But what that does is it takes away some of the control of g8. I'm sure you were sat there thinking, why aren't you taking with the knight, with the bishop later on when I didn't take with the bishop? I never even saw that. I was too sort of shocked by my bad play. And it compounded. So I probably should have just, instead of going there, I should probably have come back here with the rook and stopped the bleeding. And maybe they just take with the pawn to control this square and make my life very cramped and horrible, and maybe push here later on. Because they've got lots of control of this. So something like that. But at least I am getting out of there with the rook and maintaining control of g8. Okay, so in the game, they control g8. And I should have taken, obviously. Everything's a mistake. Everything's a mistake. I should take. And then they can replace it, but then I've at least gone up the exchange. And so when this happens, I have the exchange. So queen f1 straight away. Bishop f3. And now I'm just trying to like look for anything. And that did happen to work, but it was just because my opponent probably got complacent, thinking, well, I'm completely winning here. I think I had to take here. And then basically just hoping, like they have no useful checks here. This is, well, this and this get both taken. So they have to take a moment, and in that moment I can actually no, they have this check. They have this check. I can take it, but at least they wouldn't lose on the spot, because now this doesn't come with check and this isn't even covered, so it wouldn't matter even if it did. And White's doing okay here. White's not doing bad in this position. But there you go. Okay. I'm going to blame. And then they just sat and then they abandoned the game. Not a fan of the game abandoners. They're not in my good books. They could have let me have the checkmate, but they just abandoned the game. But this is quite nice. Not that I designed it. I kind of designed it. Well, I didn't design it, but I kind of knew what was what when I played this move. But I didn't know quite what was what. I wasn't aware that I was setting up a checkmate, really. I wasn't confident, as you saw in the video. Okay, so not a good game, but I am a bit tired. I went to bed too late after sort of frenetically trying to plan my week, and then that getting in the way of my actual routines by not sleeping until too late. As you do. All right, I will end it here. I will be playing, well, I'll be creating a creative video tomorrow. I'm going to possibly spend all day doing it. If I don't actually have time to post it tomorrow, I will post it on Wednesday. So until then, have a lovely day, and I'll see you later.